In Europe now, there is a big discussion going on. They decided to raise a fund of 800 billion euros to spend on defense. And everywhere in Europe, there's talk of massive rearmament. The Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, said, we need to spend on defense and deterrence. She is one of the most hawkish people here. We must upgrade massively to protect Denmark, and we must rearm massively to avoid war. She was in Ukraine on the 3rd anniversary of the war, where she said we should not stop talking about red lines.
So I think we should stop talking about red lines and the risk of escalation. The aggressor is Russia, and they have to stop.
What does this mean? Red lines, this means a line that Russia would feel so threatened that it would declare war against Europe and the West, and that it potentially would use nuclear weapons. So Mette Frederiksen said, we should not talk about red lines. We should attack in every way we can. In essence, we need to wage a war against Russia directly. Of course, none of them want themselves to do it. She's not sending any Danish soldiers. She says the Ukrainians should forget about red lines, and the Americans are the ones who should fight Russia. There is a mood of extreme hysteria which is being prepared in Europe for rearmament and militarization. And the argument that's being used is, okay, let's say Russia wins in Ukraine, which they have. Russia is now right at our doorstep, and we need to arm to defend ourselves. And I think a lot of ordinary people are buying into this. Is that how we guarantee our safety and security? By massive European rearmament, militarization, and defense spending.
Who's defending the interests of the Ukrainian people here? The West are not defending the interests of Ukraine. They're using the Ukraine. They've used the Ukraine in this absurd attempt to weaken Russia. And they've had the opposite effect. They're saying, oh, Russia is a threat and could invade Europe. Well, to be serious, look, Russia's succeeded in the Ukraine, but it's taken a huge effort to achieve what it's achieved. Do they really think that it has the strength and the power simply to occupy the whole of Europe? I think they're raising a scarecrow, right, of Russia. What it is really about is trying to maintain desperately the position of European imperialism in the world, i.e. we're still a power to be reckoned with. What they're worried about is this. The Americans are basically saying to them, you got to look after yourselves, mate. We've spent all this money. We can't do this. We're going to pull back. We're looking after our core interests, and you guys are not part of it. This is terrifying the ruling classes of Europe. So what they're presenting is this scarecrow of a war, and they're saying, we've got to increase military spending, we've got to strengthen ourselves. Some of them are saying, prepared to go to war with Russia in a few years' time. We're not ready, we need to get ready. Think about it like this. Imagine Russia and Europe, finally, a war breaks out. In a situation where one is advancing against the other, where you have nuclear arms, you're talking about a nuclear war. You're talking about a third world war and the launching of nuclear missiles. So people in Denmark or other countries who are worried about their neighborhood, their kids, their families, and rightly so, because this danger exists. The idea that the way to defend yourself is by arming and preparing an army to attack Russia, you're preparing the mutual destruction of both sides. You're lucky if you get vaporized. You're one of the first people to get vaporized, then you won't suffer the consequences. If you live a certain distance from where the nuclear missiles hit, you're going to be suffering cancer and destruction of civilized life, barbarism. This is what you're preparing. So the answer to this that we would say is, you want to defend your community, you want to defend your family, fight the people that have an interest in going to war, which is the capitalist class of Europe. And in Russia, the working class has to fight its own ruling class, of course, which has the same interests. It's an international struggle of the workers of all countries. Why did Marx close the manifesto with workers of all countries unite? The only way the working class can really defend its interests, both in terms of the jobs, as we said earlier on, but also in terms of security and peace, is to unite the workers of all countries in a fight against the capitalist class, which has gone way past its sell-by date. It should have left the stage of history a long time ago, but it's time it went now, before it creates any more disasters. That's the way to defend ourselves.
Yeah.